What if the reason you're stuck in your career isn't because you're not smart enough? What if it's the opposite? What if being intelligent is actually part of the problem? Because something strange happens in the workplace. The people who know the least often seem the most confident, while the people who know the most constantly question themselves. You've probably seen it. The co-worker who talks the most gets noticed. The employee who knows less gets promoted. The person with average skills somehow gets all the opportunities. And meanwhile, the genuinely capable people stay quiet. They work hard. They stay late. They solve problems nobody else wants to solve. They become the person everyone depends on. And yet, their careers barely move. Years pass. The title stays the same. The salary barely changes. The recognition never comes. And eventually they begin asking themselves a painful question. What's wrong with me? Maybe you've asked yourself that question too. Maybe you've watched someone less skilled move ahead while you stayed exactly where you were. Maybe you've spent years improving yourself, reading books, taking courses, earning certifications, only to discover that none of it translated into the opportunities you expected. And that's frustrating, because we're taught something from a very young age. Study hard, work hard, be responsible, do your job well, and success will naturally follow. But for millions of people, that's not what happens. Instead, they discover that the workplace operates according to rules nobody ever explained. Rules that have less to do with intelligence and more to do with psychology, less to do with competence and more to do with perception. And once you understand these hidden rules, you'll never look at career success the same way again. Because the truth is, many smart people aren't stuck because they're incapable. They're stuck because they're invisible. And today, we're going to explore exactly why that happens. How psychology traps intelligent people in careers they hate. And most importantly, how to escape it. Imagine this. You arrive at work every day. You do what's expected. Actually, you do more than what's expected. You solve problems before they become emergencies. You help co-workers when they're struggling. You fix mistakes that nobody notices. You improve systems. You save time. You save money. You make everyone's life easier. And yet, year after year, nothing changes. No promotion, no recognition, no meaningful growth. Then someone new joins the company. They're confident. They're outgoing. They're visible. Within months, they're getting attention from leadership. They're invited into important meetings. Their ideas are praised. And eventually, they get promoted. You sit there wondering, how is this possible? I know more than they do. I've been here longer. I've contributed more. So, why them? This experience is incredibly common, and it's one of the most painful experiences in professional life, because it creates a conflict between what we believe should happen and what actually happens. We believe effort should be rewarded. We believe competence should be recognized. We believe results should speak for themselves. But reality often works differently. The workplace isn't a pure meritocracy. It's a social environment. Human beings make decisions, and human beings are influenced by far more than objective performance. They're influenced by impressions, visibility, communication, confidence, relationships, trust, familiarity. And if nobody teaches you this, you can spend years believing that working harder is the solution. So you work harder, you stay later, you take on more responsibilities, you become indispensable. Ironically, that's sometimes the very thing that keeps you stuck. Because when you're indispensable in your current role, organizations often hesitate to move you elsewhere. You've become too valuable exactly where you are. Meanwhile, Someone else is building visibility. Someone else is building relationships. Someone else is making sure decision makers know who they are. And that's why many intelligent people feel trapped, not because they're failing, but because they're succeeding in ways nobody notices. Most people grow up believing something, a very comforting belief. Work hard, do good work. Success will follow. It's a simple idea. And in many situations, it's true. Hard work matters, competence matters, discipline matters. But the real world is more complicated. Imagine two employees. Both are equally skilled. Both produce excellent work. But one regularly shares updates with leadership, speaks confidently in meetings, builds relationships across departments, volunteers for visible projects. The other keeps their head down, focuses entirely on execution, avoids attention, assumes results will speak for themselves. Who do you think gets promoted first? In theory, they should have equal opportunities. In reality, they rarely do, because promotions aren't simply rewards for past performance. They're predictions about future performance. Leaders ask themselves questions like, can this person influence others? Can they communicate clearly? Can they represent the company? Can they lead a team? Can they handle visibility? And if nobody sees those qualities, they may never assume they exist. This is where many intelligent people get trapped. They believe competence alone should be enough, so they invest all their energy into becoming better. But they neglect the skills that make competence visible. It's like having a brilliant product nobody knows exists. The quality may be exceptional, but if nobody sees it, it can't create opportunities. And that's one of the hardest truths about career growth. Being valuable and being perceived as valuable are not the same thing. This brings us to one of the most fascinating psychological discoveries ever made: the Dunning-Kruger effect. Psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger discovered something surprising. People with low competence often overestimate their abilities, and people with high competence often underestimate theirs. At first glance, that sounds strange. Shouldn't experts be more confident? Not necessarily, because expertise changes how you see the world. The more you learn, the more complexity you discover. The more complexity you discover, the more aware you become of what you don't know. Imagine someone who has just learned the basics of investing. They might feel extremely confident. They've watched a few videos, read a few articles, learned some terminology. They think they understand the market. Now compare them to someone who has spent 20 years studying economics. That person understands uncertainty. They understand risk. They understand how much remains unpredictable. As a result, they often sound less certain, not because they're less knowledgeable, but because they're more knowledgeable. The same thing happens at work. Average performers often mistake confidence for competence. Experts understand nuance. Experts see multiple possibilities. Experts recognize limitations, and because of that, they often communicate more cautiously. Unfortunately, confidence is easier to notice than competence. When someone speaks with certainty, people naturally assume they know what they're talking about, even when they don't. Meanwhile, the thoughtful expert may hesitate. They may qualify their statements. They may acknowledge uncertainty. And ironically, that can make them appear less capable. This creates a powerful workplace illusion. The people who know the least often appear the most certain, and the people who know the most often appear the least certain. Picture a meeting. A difficult problem appears. The room goes silent. Then one employee immediately starts talking. They have answers, strong opinions, clear recommendations. They sound confident. Everyone listens, Now imagine another employee. This person understands the issue more deeply, but they're considering multiple possibilities. They're evaluating risks, thinking through consequences, analyzing variables. They remain silent for a moment. And in that moment, the room has already decided who appears knowledgeable. This happens every day, in meetings, interviews, presentations, performance reviews, leadership discussions. The smartest person in the room is often not the loudest, but organizations frequently reward visibility, not hidden competence. Think about job interviews. The candidate who appears confident often creates a stronger first impression than the candidate who quietly possesses superior skills. Think about performance reviews. Managers can only evaluate what they remember, and people remember visible contributions more easily than invisible ones. Think about leadership. Leadership isn't just about making good decisions. It's about helping others trust those decisions. Communication matters. Presence matters. Visibility matters. And many intelligent people underestimate these realities. They assume quality alone will win, but quality without visibility often remains unnoticed. Many intelligent people suffer from something else: fear of being wrong, fear of looking foolish, fear of making mistakes publicly. They want certainty. They want complete preparation. They want perfect knowledge before acting. But careers don't reward perfect readiness. They reward action. Think about how many opportunities are lost because someone waited. Waited until they felt qualified. Waited until they felt confident. Waited until they felt ready. The problem is, readiness is often an illusion. Most successful people weren't fully prepared when they accepted bigger responsibilities. They learned along the way. They adapted. They grew into the role. Meanwhile, many intelligent people remain trapped in preparation mode. They keep studying, keep researching, keep improving, but never step forward. And while they're waiting, someone else moves, someone less qualified, someone less knowledgeable, someone less prepared, but someone willing to act. The workplace often rewards imperfect action more than perfect hesitation. That's uncomfortable, but it's true. There's another reason smart people stay stuck: imposter syndrome. This is the persistent feeling that you're not as capable as others think you are, even when evidence suggests otherwise. Ironically, high achievers experience this more often than average performers. Why? Because they understand how much there is to learn. They see their weaknesses clearly. They compare themselves to experts. They focus on what they haven't mastered. Meanwhile, less capable individuals often focus on what they already know. This creates a strange paradox. The person who should feel confident feels insecure, and the person who should feel uncertain feels confident. Over time, this affects behavior. The intelligent employee hesitates to apply for promotions. The intelligent employee avoids leadership opportunities. The intelligent employee waits for permission. And every time they hesitate, they reinforce the belief that they're not ready. Meanwhile, someone else raises their hand and gets the opportunity. The most successful professionals understand something important. Confidence and competence are different skills. You need both. Competence gets results. Confidence gets opportunities. Competence keeps the job. Confidence gets you considered for the job. Competence creates value. Confidence makes that value visible. The goal isn't arrogance. The goal isn't pretending to know everything. The goal is learning how to communicate your value effectively. Successful people understand that visibility is not vanity, it's strategy. They understand that speaking up isn't showing off, it's participation. They understand that leadership requires being seen, and they understand that opportunities rarely go to people nobody notices. First, stop assuming people automatically see your value. Make your work visible, share progress, communicate results, highlight achievements. Second, speak before you feel completely ready. You don't need certainty, you need participation. Third, document your accomplishments, keep records, track results, measure impact. Fourth, improve your communication skills. The best idea in the room loses if nobody understands it. And finally, stop confusing humility with invisibility. Being humble is good. Making yourself invisible is not. You can be humble and visible at the same time. If you've been feeling stuck, this is important. Your career may not be stalled because you're not smart enough. It may be stalled because you've been playing a game whose rules nobody explained. You've been focusing entirely on competence, while ignoring visibility. You've been trying to become better when you also needed to become seen. Remember, the goal is not to become the loudest person in the room. The goal is to make sure your value isn't hidden, because the world doesn't always reward the most capable people. It rewards the people whose capability becomes visible. And once you understand that, you stop waiting to be discovered. You stop hoping someone will eventually notice. You stop believing that hard work alone guarantees recognition. Instead, you learn to combine competence with visibility, skill with communication, excellence with presence. And that's when everything changes, because success isn't just about becoming valuable. It's about making sure the world can see your value. And when it can, the opportunities you've been waiting for finally have a chance to find you.